It's week 14. This is a big game versus the Bengals, Dash.
You know it.
Welcome to the Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? Let's proclaim the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to our week 14 Steelers preview. I'm your host, Jim Sella, in studio with Jay Dash. We got the Steelers taking on the Bengals in Cincinnati. Pittsburgh dropped the game in Pittsburgh 16-10. Was that the final score?
16-10.
That was a game the Steelers easily could have won. They gave up somewhere around 13 points in the fourth quarter.
10
points.
It was 10-6 heading into that fourth quarter, man.
They did hold Tyler Eifert in check in that game, and I think that was one of the biggest reasons why they were actually able to stay in contention, although Big Ben was just coming off the knee injury, and any Steeler fan knows he historically doesned play well in that first game.
Let's not forget, too, we only had Le'Veon Bell for one half in that game because that is the game he got injured in.
Yeah, Vontae Burfict cheap shot at him and then danced about it after he did it.
Yeah,
Loser.
The Steelers definitely should have won that game. They played well defensively, but the offense just didn't get it done. I mean, Big Ben, 3 picks in that game. Like you said, coming off the injury, he usually doesn't play well, and he definitely didn't. D'Angelo Williams had a good game after Le'Veon Bell went out of the game. Together, Williams and Le'Veon had 116 yards on 19 carries, a 6.1 yard average. Our defense, they shut down Andy Dalton. He picked the ball 2 times off of him. He only had 231 yards passing. They had 3 sacks against him, plus 6 total QB hits. They got nothing going on the ground, really. Jeremy Hill led the team with 60 yards on 15 carries. They had 78 yards total. A.J. Green was really the only guy on that offensive side that did anything in that game, had 118 yards and a touchdown. But if the defense can play like they did in that game, I really think they have a great shot to win this game. I think the offense is going to look better than they did that week. But I mean, you got to look at the Bengals, man. You got to give them some credit. Yeah, they're 10-2. Everybody knows they're a good team. But did you know they've scored the second most points in the AFC? They have 334 points behind only the New England Patriots, who have scored 375. And on top of that, the Cincinnati Bengals defense is the only defense in football to not allow 200 points so far this season. They've allowed 196 points this season.
Prepare to go over 200, fools.
Well, obviously they're going to go over 200 unless they shut the Steelers out or hold them to a field goal.
They're going over 240. Pittsburgh's doing it big this week.
They did it against the Steelers already once this season, man, and you got to give this defense some credit. The Arizona Cardinals blew them up for 34 points a couple weeks ago, but outside of that, man, they've had a great season from beginning to right now, really. But I look back, the last good team that Cincinnati beat was the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, since that 16-10 win over the Steelers, the Cincinnati Bengals have beat the Browns 31-10, then they lost to the Texans 10-6, lost to the Cardinals 34-31, beat the Rams 31-7 2 weeks ago, and then beat the Browns last week 37-3. So since that Steelers win, they beat the Browns twice and beat the Rams and then lost 2 games. So it's been a long time since they beat a good team. So we're going to have to see how this Bengals team plays. I mean, you look, they've been able to take it easy over the past 2 weeks versus the Rams and the Browns. Outscored them 68-10. And I mean, those are 2 terrible teams. So we'll have to see if they come ready.
And this is about the time that Andy Dalton really starts to drop off. The Bengals, I don't think Dalton's ever won a playoff game.
No.
This is a playoff game feel, especially for Pittsburgh. He struggles late in the season. He struggles in cold weather. I mean, he started hot last year, too, and I believe the year before, and then cooled off towards the end of the year. I know they just went and rolled Cleveland or whatever it was in the last week or week before. Who cares? I mean, everybody's beating the crap out of those
Look,
guys.
They haven't showed the letdown yet, though, and we're still waiting for it. Right now, Andy Dalton is having a great season. 3,191 yards, 25 touchdowns to just 6 interceptions. Actually, the Steelers picked him off twice the last time around, so a third of his picks this season came against the Steelers.
He's also 2-2 at home against Pittsburgh, and the Bengals are 19-25 against Pittsburgh at home. The Steelers have a winning record in Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, I've said it many a times. Cincinnati's like a second home to Big Ben and this Steelers team.
Ben loves to win against Ohio teams unless I'm at the game.
Yeah, I think I went to a game where they lost in Cleveland as well. But they did win when I went to a Cincinnati game. I went to the playoff game where Kimo von Oelhoffen rolled over Carson Palmer, yeah.
Pittsburgh has won the last 8 games they've played in the month of December, 3 of those are actually against the Bengals. The Steelers are tied for the 3rd best record over the last 4 games of a season since 2010 at 14-6, and they're 2nd in the last month of a season, which includes early January games, in that same time span at 18-6. So even those years where Pittsburgh wasn't playing well and we went 8-8 and struggled a lot of the year, we play really well towards the end of the year. Once Pittsburgh really gets everything going, I think this offense hasn't clicked as well as it did last week all season long. I know, obviously, we still have no Le'Veon Bell. D'Angelo Williams filling in just fine. I think Pittsburgh is in for a big day. I know this Bengals team has a good defense. I'm not taking anything away. I'm not saying they're terrible or anything. But I just think Pittsburgh is the scariest wild card contender in the AFC, if not the whole NFL. Pittsburgh and Seattle,
Yeah, I agree with that. And Pittsburgh, I mean, they seem to be somewhat healthier right now. I wouldn't say completely healthy. Willie Gay, we'll have to see what happens with him. He's in a concussion protocol right now.
Sean Spence still a little banged up. Heath Miller may play.
It looks like Ryan Shazier came out of the game with no problems at this point. Big Ben's healthy at this point.
They ran a rotation, if you watched, with Vince Williams and Ryan Shazier, I guess just to limit a little bit of his plays since it was his first game back.
The offensive line's playing well right now as well, keeping Big Ben upright. But you look on the other side, too, the Cincinnati Bengals, they're a very healthy team. I think Adam Jones may be the only guy that has any kind of injury right now, but I think he's going to play anyway. So really, they've been very healthy all season long. And I don't know if it's going to catch up to him or not at this point. You would think it would. Every team has to deal with injuries, but really Cincinnati has been able to stay healthy all season long, and that's a big reason why they've been playing well all season.
What about the kick return game? Jacoby Jones benched at halftime. He's been demoted to third-team punt returner. I don't even know if he's on third-team kick return. We got Wheaton returning kicks now, Brown returning punts. Is Brown going to be able to take another one against Cincinnati? He has 4 for his career. 3 of them are against the Bengals.
I mean, I guess it's definitely a possibility. Why not? Need him to.
Roll in there. Get a Steeler record. James Harrison, if he gets 3 more sacks, he gets a Steeler record. Tops Jason Gilden for the team leading sacks.
I was just mentioning that we were talking about health. We'll have to see if Heath Miller can make it back as well. Obviously, he missed the last game. Jesse James stepped in and played okay, I guess, but we want Heath Miller back. Look, he was our best offensive player against Cincinnati last time out. 10 catches, 105 yards in that game. That was his biggest game of the season. Big Ben looked his way 13 times in that game. I'd like to get him back because, look, Pittsburgh only put up 10 points in that game, and we really need him.
You got to have Earl Miller in there. I love
Earl.
that dude. Earl. That's his real name.
Is it really?
Yeah. Tomlin called him that one day, and I'm like, who the hell is Earl Miller? And I started looking all over the team, and then I finally looked it up, and yes, Heath's real name is Earl.
Yeah, we need to get him back healthy just by the way he played last time around. But back to Antonio Brown real quick. He scored a touchdown in this game, but really there was nothing going on in this receiving game the last time around. Now it looks like they have more options than ever because, I mean, Jesse James is starting to step up. Now you have 2 passing options in Heath Miller and Jesse James at tight end. You always had Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant when he came back from his suspension or whatever, but now Marcus Wheaton stepping into the scene as well, and we're hearing... What's the rookie receiver's name?
Sammy Coates.
Yeah, Sammy Coates. He's going to maybe step back in the scene here.
Yeah, Jacoby Jones should just be cut.
Yeah, Jacoby Jones. I'm done with him, obviously. I like Marcus Wheaton kick returning. I think that's what's going to happen. When they say it's going to be Antonio Brown and Marcus Wheaton, I think they mean Marcus Wheaton's going to do all the kick returning and Brown punt returning. That's what I'd be guessing.
Yep.
I don't want to see Antonio Brown doing kick returns now, too.
Big Ben's not mad, but he's not exactly excited about his top 2 receivers in the return game. He's a little worried.
Top 2? Top 2?
Top 2, Wheaton and Brown. That's how he described it. He said he doesn't like his top 2 receivers. That's an exact quote from Ben.
That's ridiculous. Martavis Bryant is definitely the number 2 receiver on this team.
Not in Ben's heart.
Not in Ben's heart. Well, you must be best friends with Marcus Wheaton then, because
maybe Wheaton got him a bottle of wine for Thanksgiving, and Bryant just gave him a bag of weed. And
Ben you remember
like,
Big Ben?
I can't smoke his weed.
Big Ben came into the season saying Marcus Wheaton was going to be the guy that had the breakout year. Yeah, he just must love this guy, and
maybe Wheaton lives in Ben's basement, like Sidney Crosby lived with Mario Lemieux for a while. You think that's a possibility?
It's creepy.
Nothing wrong with living in another man's basement.
But I do want to see Martavis Bryant have a better game than he had in that Cincinnati game as well. He came up with 49 yards on 4 receptions and made a couple mistakes in that game. He needs to come up with a better game. I mean, it's not on the defense at all. If they can go out there and do what they did last time against Cincinnati, we should have no worries. You got Shazier. He's healthy. This should be a tough game for the defense, but I think they can do a good job against them. It's not going to be like last week against Indy. Andy Dalton can play better than Matt Hasselbeck with A.J. Green out there and Marvin Jones and Tyler Eifert. They got some weapons out there, so it's not going to be as easy for the corners. We're going to see how Boykin fares this week as well. I mean, he did a good job last week. Is he going to get more playing time this week against a better team? We'll have to see.
The Steelers' defense has only let up 10 or less points in 2 of the last 3 games, with the Seattle game being the exception. And I know that Cleveland's not a great offense, so hold them to 9 points isn't too impressive. But the Colts offense
anytime
was
you hold
rolling.
anybody to under 10 points,
Matt Hasselbeck was playing well. We beat the crap out of him. We're getting to the quarterback. No one person on the defense is dominating in sacks, but we're getting them as a group, and I like that. It's harder to game plan against a whole team than just one player.
Yeah, we have to get to Andy Dalton in this game as well. They did a solid job of it last time out. Like I said, 3 sacks, 6 QB hits. But he's been sacked only 20 times this season. So that was actually a good game against Andy Dalton in terms of sacks. And I want to see them do the same thing they did last week, but spread it out through the game, not just 4 sacks on the final drive of the game. I want to see 3, 4, 5 sacks in this game spread out through the game that ends drives. But I think they take the right approach against Cincinnati defensively. Stop the run, make Andy Dalton beat you to A.J. Green. Take everyone else out of the situation. A.J. Green alone cannot beat you, especially if you're not running the ball. So if A.J. Green's beating you out there, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Shut everyone else down, and you'll be able to stay in that game. And the offense is good enough. They should be, they put up 30 points or more over the past 4 games, something like that. Obviously, a couple of those games that looked ugly.
I think, over the last 4.
Yeah, a couple of those games it didn't look very pretty, but they've been scoring 30 points, so I want to see Pittsburgh go out there, score 30 points offensively in this game, and I think you'll be all right if that happens.
If the receiving core can get open a little better than they did the last time, the line blocks a little better, I have no worries about Ben Roethlisberger. People are saying he's concussion, blah, blah, blah. He just got a little dinged. I wouldn't even call what happened to him a real concussion. He took himself out of the game because he was a little dizzy. They checked him out. He was good to go the next week. He's fine. This offense is rolling right now. They need to keep pace with Cincinnati. Don't fall behind, because I don't want to see Ben press. That's when he starts throwing a lot of picks. When Ben turns the ball over more than the other team's quarterback, we lose football games. He turned it over 3 times against Cincinnati, we lost. He turned it over, well, not him himself, but the quarterback position turned it over 4 times against Seattle. We lost that game. Pittsburgh's defense isn't good enough to be put in a lot of short down situations. You can't give the Bengals a lot of easy chances to score. So don't fall behind 14-0. Stay in the game. If you're in the game at halftime, there's no reason Pittsburgh can't come out and just do what they did last week and then really get D'Angelo Williams worked into the game, let him take over in the second half. This offense certainly has what it takes to beat the Bengals team. I think Pittsburgh's offense is actually better than Cincinnati's right now. Maybe not for the whole year.
It seems to me the Steelers really start to blow up in the second quarter. They never really get anything going immediately. They start out slow, but in the second quarter, at least over these past 2 games, they've dominated. I think they have 30 points in the past 2 games in the second quarter, and that's what you want to see. You want to see them come out and put up points early in this game and then go into the half with the lead, so they can do what they didn't do against Seattle, and what they did do against Indy is start running the ball and slowing this game down.
Well, this has huge playoff implications for the Steelers, the Bengals, and a bunch of other teams. Pittsburgh is, they're the 7th seed, but they're kind of in a de facto 3-way tie with the Jets and Kansas City. If all 3 teams would win out, Pittsburgh would make it as the 6th seed based on record versus like opponents, and I think the Jets would be the team that would be out of it. So it would be KC at 5 and Pittsburgh at 6. Cincinnati's battling for that number 1 or number 2 spot in the conference to try to get that bye week. They got Denver at number 2. They got New England at number 3 right now. The Bengals, I can tell you, they're the team that probably wants the bye week the most. That way they can actually advance to week 2 of the playoffs for once, because I don't think they've ever done that.
Yeah, and I think they are going to, actually. I think Denver's going to be the team that falls off. I
You
don't
think Denver?
Yeah, I mean, just with I know they got the great defense and everything. Cincinnati has a good defense too, though. And just with Brock Osweiler as the quarterback, I think they'd be the team that falls off in the end.
What if Pittsburgh comes out and rolls Cincinnati, and then Andy Dalton cries like a little fire crotch baby that he is, and then the Bengals crumble?
I don't think they're going to crumble until the playoffs start. I mean, they could go out and lose this game, but that's not really a big deal. I don't think it's going to affect anything for the division. I think they got this division wrapped up at this point. I mean, it's possible if the Steelers win out, Bengals lose out, then the Steelers win a division. But that's really an impossibility at this point. But I think that Cincinnati and New England are going to come out and get the buys here. But I think whoever goes into Cincinnati in the end is going to give them a run for their money.
How many total losses for the Bengals by the end of the year?
Well, I'm going to give you the prediction for this game at the end, but I'll say following this game, they're going to win out.
You think they're going to win out after this game? Who do they got?
Well, they got the 49ers and the Ravens. I think they'll beat both of them, but then they go into the Broncos, and that's going to decide. That's going to be the deciding game right there. Is the Broncos going to be the team that gets the bye or the Bengals? And I think, like I said, I think it's going to be the Bengals, so I think they're going to win out after this Steeler game.
Is it at Denver?
It is at Denver.
Ooh,
Yes.
You think the Bengals are going to go in and win at Denver? That's Osweiler's house now, boy.
That's exactly why I think they're going to win. I think Osweiler's going to have a down game against it. Like I said, Cincinnati, they may not be the best defense in football when you just think about Cincinnati, but in terms of points allowed, they are the best defense in football.
Charles Darwin commented on the Colts recap. Are you betting that the Steelers +3 cover against the Bengals this week? It feels like it could be a push to me with Cincinnati winning by 3.
Well, do you want to tell them now what your prediction is, or what do you want to do here, man?
We got to do our key to victory before we can give our
That's what I'm
official
saying.
prediction.
So we'll answer that question in a minute, man. You'll see. I think we both have the same answer to this.
I can tell you, everybody already knows my answer.
Yeah.
What's your key to victory?
Key to victory? Well, I looked the last time these two played, and the defense did everything they could do to try to win that game. It was completely on the offense why they didn't win that game, and really completely on Ben Roethlisberger. Even though he came back, he wasn't fully healthy. He made too many mistakes in that game. I think the offense really got to put it together in this game, and I'm going to say they got to run the ball well. They can't just pass the ball well, so I'm going to say D'Angelo Williams got to have a big game here.
I think the Steelers defense needs to stop Tyler Eifert again. The guy's got 12 touchdowns. I'm pretty sure he leads the league, if not 1 or 2. He has 46 catches for 522 yards on the year. The last time they played, he only had 4 catches for 39 yards. Pittsburgh should have won that game. We've already touched on that a little bit. The Steelers just get shredded by tight ends. I mean, we've seen it all year long. We've seen it historically, our defense. It's not even just this year. When we have great defenses, the tight ends would still have good games against us compared to other teams. So if we can stop him and you forced A.J. Green to be the only threat in the passing game, I believe we should be able to stop Jeremy Hill and Gio with I don't want to say with ease. It's not easy on any Sunday. The Bengals are a good team. But Pittsburgh's good against the run, so I think they'll have no problem shutting the run down. And if you keep A.J. Green as the only passing threat, we've seen Pittsburgh be able to beat them before and A.J. Green have a big game. I think he might have 200 yards receiving in a game that we actually ended up dominating Cincinnati in that game.
Yeah, I believe so too. But I think the Steelers are equipped to stop Jeremy Hill more than Giovanni Bernard. And I remember going into that Cincinnati game saying, you got to watch out for Giovanni Bernard. And what did they do? They gave him the ball 1 time on the ground and threw him the ball twice. He had 2 catches and 1 run. He ended up with 34 yards, which isn't terrible for 3 touches. But I think it's going to be a little bit different this week. They're going to try to get Giovanni involved more this time around. And the Steelers are going to have to look out for that on the defensive side.
What about the defensive back rotation? Do you like Blake and Cockrell sharing time on the outside and Gay on the other side, and now Boykin coming in when they go into the nickel?
I mean, yeah, that's the way I'd run it, obviously. But, I mean, everybody liked Gay in the inside, so if the Steelers' corners start getting burnt in this game, I wouldn't mind seeing them go back to how it was. And maybe just if Blake's playing terrible, just throw Boykin on the outside and let Gay do his thing on the inside, which he knows how to do, you know what I mean?
I think they'd rather put Boykin inside and live with Gay outside.
Yeah, but if they're both getting burned at that point, you might as well put someone somewhere that's going to stop someone, you know what I mean?
Gotta
I'm
hope.
just saying if they're getting torched.
Gotta hope. I think I like Blake and Cockrell. Less is more with both those guys. Blake will play a little better on special teams. I'm not buying into the whole they can both be great. They're both guys who were cut from other teams and have played well this year at times, but they've also played bad at times, and Blake's given up a lot of poor tackles, so missed tackles, I guess I want to say.
I'm still hopeful
so they
Cockrell,
need to do that. I like Cockrell. I think he could be a solid player. Nobody great, but he can be that solid number 2 guy.
Yeah, I mean, he really doesn't have much NFL playing time, and when he came in and stepped in, he made some big plays. Now, he's still making mistakes. We see it. He makes pass interference calls or whatever. He gets burned a couple times, but he makes some big plays, and maybe next year he steps up and becomes a solid corner.
So what's your official prediction for the game?
My official prediction, I'm going to say, I think both offenses do a little bit better than they did last time around.
Both teams are coming off a game where they won by 34 points or more. That's the first time in history of the league for us, our rivalry.
Yeah, I'm really going to give Pittsburgh the edge here because they've been playing some tougher games recently while Cincinnati's just been loafing against some terrible teams, and I think Pittsburgh might be a little bit more ready to play. They like playing in Cincinnati. I do think both offenses are going to put up points. I would say something like a 31-28 score.
Peter King of Sports Illustrated ranks the Steelers 6th in his power rankings ahead of the New England Patriots, saying that Pittsburgh is playing better. Well, he's basing it on who's playing right now, not for the whole season, not, by overall record. But if they played today in a neutral stadium, who he thinks would win the football game, and he thinks that Pittsburgh could beat the Patriots in a game just because of all the injuries that the Patriots have sustained on offense as of right now. So I think the Steelers are finally getting some credit. I think Ben's finally getting the credit he's due for being a great quarterback. The offenses are going to come out and have a great game. I think it's really up to the defenses who's going to come up with more big plays, which defensive backs. And I think that the Steelers' defensive backs come up with enough in the red zone. They're going to hold Cincinnati to 3 instead of 7 enough times. And I think the Steelers come out and win this game 35-34 in a squeaker.
Damn.
Squeaker.
I will say this, though. Who'd you say did those power rankings or whatever?
Peter King of Sports Illustrated.
So if it's up to now, and you did all 32 teams, would the Eagles be above the Patriots? They're playing better than them right now.
Well, just
correct?
because they won in the game last week doesn't. I mean,
they were playing better than them though.
In one game, that's it.
That's what I'm
but
saying.
Not at
though,
this
like
point
right
in
now,
the season.
Well, I mean, at this point they did though. I don't know, man. Whatever. I'm just saying it's kind of flawed. Whatever.
I don't know. I still think Pittsburgh would beat New England in a neutral site right now.
Maybe, but I mean, Gronkowski's going to be back.
But he's not. That's what they're saying. Like this week, if they played this week with the lineups that they have, not when everybody's healthy. He even said it in the article. New England's the better team. If everybody on New England was healthy, he wouldn't have ranked Pittsburgh ahead of New England. So he's taking everything into account.
Whatever. He's crank. Good.
He picked Baltimore, I think, to win the Super Bowl, so he obviously doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
We said they were going to be garbage at the beginning of the season, and not just because we hate the Baltimore Ravens, because we looked at their defense, said they suck. They signed Joe Flacco to the huge contract.
Defense said they suck just because they're garbage.
Well, they are. The defense sucks.
They
but
are.
Look, I mean, it hurt that they lost Terrell Suggs as well, but we looked at the offense. I mean, all they had was an old Steve Smith, and he actually had a better season than we thought he would, but they really had nothing behind that. We said Justin Forsett was a guy that he had a big season last year, but there was no saying he was going to do it again because he never did it before in his other 6-7 years in the league. And then you got Joe Flacco, a guy that you signed after he won a Super Bowl, and the Steeler fans got to love that they went out and gave him that huge contract after that Super Bowl because you knew that was going to ruin their team in the end.
Yep. Overachieved and got more money than he's worth.
Well, the defense went out there and won a Super Bowl for him. Then you give the quarterback. I'm surprised they didn't do it with Trent Dilfer, too. That would have been hilarious.
So there it is, Charles. We both think that the Steelers will cover the +3 line. I just don't see Cincinnati winning this game. Like Dash has said, that they're kind of
parlay, man.
They're kind of loafing a little bit while Pittsburgh's battling some tough games. So I think Pittsburgh covers that line pretty handedly. I should have picked Pittsburgh this week against New England or against Indianapolis.
You did.
No, I mean actually put something on the game.
Oh.
I just laid there and watched it. Fans, any questions or comments you have for us, hit us up on Twitter at bet_the_spread. Hit me up on Twitter at betjimthewin. Check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/betthespread. Just posting some nice pictures of Terry Bradshaw on there. Check out our YouTube page at youtube.com/betthespread. Keep clicking subscribe. I don't know how many subscribers we have because it changes about every 22 seconds.